What's up, y'all? If you're not caught up on the Jujutsu Kaisen manga, this is your warning to keep scrolling. But with that out of the way, let's address the GOAT in the room. If you saw my last video talking about the most recent chapter, I was excited because there's even more evidence that Gojo's coming back. Now, the reaction to that is usually split 50-50. People that are excited with me and people that say cope harder. So today we're going to address all of this evidence, and you too can jump off the doubter train and join us over in the promised land. So let's get into it. All right, first, let's talk about how my man went down. Obviously, bifurcation is not a good way to go. Most people really don't come back from getting split in half. However, Gojo's not most people. He is one of the most gifted users of RCT in the verse, not to mention he's got outside healing on deck, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. But the most important thing for this point is that his head is okay. And Gege has made multiple points throughout this story, including one very recently about how RCT stems from the head. If the head's still there, RCT can theoretically still occur. And this isn't even to mention the narrative symmetry this would have in Gojo's own story arc, where he was previously thought defeated, but he wasn't because his opponent didn't go for the head. Gege even goes out of his way to explicitly remind readers of this fact. Mere chapters after Gojo's defeat, Kenjaku intentionally takes out this guy's head so that he cannot use reverse curse technique. And that is just his RCT. With the latest chapter, we now know that Gojo's body has been teleported to Shoko, arguably the best RCT user when it comes to healing others. And this lines up very well for her story arc in this manga. What do I mean by that? Well, a big part of Gojo's character arc is the solitude and loneliness that comes from being the strongest. And we're going to talk more about that here in a second. But how Shoko plays into this is really described by this panel here, where she is lamenting the fact that Gojo's an idiot because he wasn't alone. She was always there. And it's really once Geto got taken out of the picture, she got swept to the side too. So Gojo always felt alone, but it wasn't from lack of others trying. Shoko really was always there. So think about how nice of a full circle narrative moment it would be for Gojo to open his eyes and see Shoko was the one who had saved his life. Gojo could finally come to accept and realize that he isn't alone. Not only is there Shoko, but also all of the students who played a role in this. And this realization is the crux of Gojo's entire story arc in this manga. And it can be entirely encapsulated by this pivotal moment in his life. Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? I'm going to try not to get too metaphysical here, but essentially what this means is, Gojo, are you you because you're you, and that has what's made you the strongest? Or are you just the strongest, and your entire identity is just built off of that? And thus far in his life, it has absolutely been the latter. He has been defined by his title of the strongest, a strength that kept him separate from everyone else. Not to mention the irony of his technique literally doing the same thing. So Gojo getting to come back and be reborn, freed from the chains of being the strongest, is literally the culmination of his entire narrative arc. He can finally find out what it means just to be Satoru Gojo. Now you might be saying those are some real flowery words, but where's the evidence? Well, first and foremost, this question. Again, the crux of Gojo's entire narrative arc remains unanswered. If Gojo is gone, this question is never answered. Additionally, in the chapter where Gojo goes out, there is a whole section just waxing poetic on the nature of who people are and the choices they have to make in discovering that. The chapter is literally called Go South, and they are presented with an option of go north or go south. Do you go south to remain who you are, or do you go north to find something new? Like Nanami points out below, he went south. He was happy with who he was, and he passed on. What will Gojo do? Will he go south and pass on happy with who he is? No, because he's never been able to answer that question. So what will he do? He will go north and discover his new identity. Again, you also have to realize that narratively, a writer wouldn't present this type of dichotomy without the intention of showing the different ways it could be expressed. So we already know what happens when somebody goes south. We have to see what happens when somebody goes north. Not to mention the fact that this whole dream sequence took place in an airport, so Gojo is choosing whether he's going to board the plane and depart or not. And y'all, we haven't even touched on the Gojo Buddha symbolism yet. If you didn't know, Buddhism is a major inspiration for this manga, and Gojo in a lot of places is very symbolic of Buddha. The name Satoru even means enlightenment. And Buddha was the one that said, if you wish to make yourself anew, go north, aka the inspiration for the title and discussion of this chapter. And what happened when Buddha went north? Well, he took 7 steps and lotus flowers rose in those places. This was like symbolic of Buddha, awakening and having that new enlightenment. And what's in this panel? Oh, 7 lotus flowers. The Gojo Buddha rabbit hole actually goes really deep. Y'all can dig into it if you'd like. There's a lot, but I covered the most important thing relating to Gojo coming back. Now, does all of that mean that without a shadow of a doubt, 100% Gojo's coming back? No, because at the end of the day, Gege is writing this story, and he might change his mind at any point along the way, so certain things that are set up don't necessarily have to be paid off. But it's for those reasons that I really think Gojo is coming back. This is beyond just, the cope of wanting a cool character to not be gone. And y'all, it's not too late, so to anybody that wants to board the train with us, we'd be happy to have you.
To the rest of you, the non-believers, the underachievers, the tweet and deleters, you guys make me sick to my stomachs, fam.